Hey guys, Camos here, and today doing a little video focusing on Battlefield. I haven't done a Battlefield video in a while. I don't remember the last one I did, honestly. It's been a minute. But recently the game came out with its fourth chapter of post-launch content, what I'll call it. And I guess what I'm going to be talking about in this video is kind of like my thoughts on that so far. And on top of that, what I think they need to do better going into the future, because I think that Battlefield's in a really interesting spot right now. They're in a really tough spot actually, where if they don't start clamping up now and getting some good updates in, it could completely ruin the game's future.
Oh no.
But also, if they start releasing some really good updates right now, and like get on a good habit of that, I think that it could set the game up for a bit of a comeback. I think it's like right at that moment where they need to, where DICE needs to perform, and if they don't, if they mess up, I think that it might just cheese the game for the rest of its life cycle, which is really unfortunate.
I got it build real bad.
So what I'm talking about basically is there's been a few, like the last 2 months or so, there's been a pretty decent amount of updates for Battlefield 5, and largely they haven't been very good. A lot of these updates have caused performance issues, and this goes for all platforms actually. It's not just on consoles or anything. It's actually PC players have a lot of the platform issues, but there's also or performance issues, but there's also a lot of performance issues on consoles as well, with frame drops and stuttering and just like your game freezing. There seems to be something with like completing assignments where you'll complete an assignment and your game will just like freeze up for like 1 or 2 seconds or something like that. On top of that, I've also noticed recently that the time in which you die seems to have reverted to that of what it was during launch, where if you don't remember, like during the launch of Battlefield 5, you would die really quickly sometimes. Like you would die so fast to weapons that just do not seem like they could possibly kill you that fast, and yet you would die that fast to them. Like for example, I don't know, like a slow killing, let's say like a Sten or something like that, like a fairly slow killing SMG. I mean, even if you beam and hit every shot with it, it's still going to kill you pretty slow, especially compared to guns like the Thompson and stuff like that. There'll be times where it literally feels like all the damage just comes at once, and it feels like you're just taking 1 bullet from an SMG and you're dead. And there's nothing you can do. That was an issue at the beginning of the game's life cycle, and now it seems to be back. I've had that start to happen. It's not as common as then, I would say, but it started to happen a lot more again. I'm pretty disappointed in that because that was one of the big things that they improved, and now it sucks that it seems to have regressed. So those are the two like big things for me. There was also like an airplane bug where you would just like hear this airplane noise for the entire round, but they fixed that, and all these other bugs and stuff like that. Like it's become a meme, but it's actually true. Like all these recent updates have introduced as many bugs as they have fixed, or more, and that is an issue. And they really need to start working on that, because it's getting to the point where the game is regressing. Like I would say that the game had pretty solid and consistent progress from I don't know, maybe like middle of December to about April, maybe like end of March or April. It was pretty consistent progress. Like yes, patches would still introduce bugs, but for the most part it seemed like there were more important bugs being fixed than there were being added to the game, or detrimental ones being added to the game. And now we're at the point where for the last few months it has not felt like that. The last few months it's been the opposite. It's felt like that most of the updates introduce more game-breaking bugs than they fix, and the game is starting to regress, which is not good, and it's very unfortunate, because like those few months from December, April to so, I was like really hopeful, especially with the launch of Firestorm. And even now with this trailer for all the new maps and the new content that is coming, like it just made me really hopeful. But all these patches are starting to like kill that hope, because at the end of the day, like I'm not gonna care about playing on these specific maps if the game runs like trash. Like that's not, you know, it's not gonna be that appealing to me. Now to be fair, I do think that this last hotfix that they did for Xbox One in particular seems to feel pretty good. I played around with it for a bit, and maybe it's apparently it seems to be different for different people, but for me it feels pretty good. The game is starting to feel back to where it was, so that's good for me at least. But I've heard reports from other people that it hasn't fixed much, so I don't know where the difference is there. I don't know why there's such a difference in performance there. Like, we should be getting very similar performance on the same platform. But I don't know. Apparently that's not the case. Anyways, another thing that was just like me talking about the updates. Another thing I want to talk about was like the content, or the Tides of War, really, like, so they're weekly releases. So the weekly releases, I think, suck. I think that the preview that they did for Tides of War in Battlefield 1 was actually a lot better than what they actually gave us here in Battlefield 5. So in Battlefield 1, from what I remember, the Tides of War, like, little preview thing, it would actually give you, like, the weekly progression or whatever would actually give you, like, 3 items instead of one item. Now for Tides of War in Battlefield 5, each week you get a chance at getting 1 item. Battlefield 1, you're getting 3. Another thing that I really liked about the Battlefield 1 system, too, is that it was just score-based, which was, you know, some people would argue, like, not as interesting or not as fun, but at least with score-based, it's really, like, a lot of people complain about the Tides of War challenges, like, changing the way people play the game too much, and that is fair. Like, I've actually seen a lot of that. Like, there's, you know, whenever there's a Tides of War challenge, it's like, hey, get 50 revives as a medic. I notice a lot more people going for way more risky revives than usual. It could be placebo, but it really does seem like some of the weekly challenges, especially some of the more out there ones that are just, like, different, like getting a roadkill with a tractor or whatever, stuff like that. It really does seem to have an effect on the way people play the game, and that's not always a positive effect. Like, sometimes, you know, people going for more revives, that's cool, I'm down with that, but having people, like, if it's a vehicle kills thing, you know, having people camp the spawn, not even spawning in, waiting for a vehicle to come up so they can get in a vehicle and get some kills with a vehicle, I don't think that affects the game very positively. So I don't know, it's tough. I feel like the easier way to do it, you could make this work, right? You could figure out, like, which challenges work for a positive effect on the gameplay and which ones don't, and eventually, like, the challenges would be fine. But I think it'd be much easier to do that BF1 system and just have it be score-based. Just have it be score-based each week. Like, I don't know, I feel like that's a lot more simple, and you get a lot more freedom there, too. If you wanted to, you could still add in the extra challenges there. You could have the score-based thing be, like, the main thing. You know, do it kind of like Apex, honestly. Well, it's a little bit different this season for Apex, but kind of like Apex. So, like, the main unlocks are, like, score-based, and then have some other challenges that'll give you extra XP for your battle pass in this game, essentially. You know, that way you kind of get the best of both worlds. Like, those challenges aren't going to have as much of an effect on the gameplay because people aren't doing the challenges to get the weekly reward. They're doing the challenges to just get their battle pass progression. Not everybody cares about that, so not everybody's going to bother to do those challenges. A lot of people, after they get the score, they're just going to be good to go. So that's one thing, I think. And then, like I was saying before, how BF1 had 3 items, I think they need to amp that up here in BF5. Specifically, I want to bitch about the camos. Every new camo that comes out just comes out on, like, 4 base weapons. It'll come out on the Enfield, it'll come out on the Sten, the KE7, and the STG. Or sorry, no, it'll actually come out on the Sturmgewehr 1.5, but yeah, which is the base weapon for the assault class. So the only weapons that are getting these new camos are the base weapons for the classes, and it's like, what? So the other weapons just gonna get left out in the dust for eternity? Like, are they just never gonna get those camos? So I don't really know what's going on there, but that's a way I think they could easily improve it. It's like, release those camos for all the guns. Have a Tides of War week where it's like a super long progression of challenges, but you get like 5 different camos for 5 different guns or something like that. Or it could be 5 of the same camo, but for different guns. You know, something like that. I feel like that shouldn't be that hard to do, especially because if they have these camos in on the base guns, I would imagine that they have them created for the other guns and in the game. So it just makes me wonder, like, are they just never gonna happen? I don't know what's going on there with the whole weapon camo thing in this game. It makes no sense to me, and it's really disappointing because some of these new camos that come out are pretty cool. They're pretty cool camos, and I really want to know what they would look like on weapons that I like to use. Like, I really, of the base weapons, I don't use any of them. Now that I think about it, I don't use any of those base weapons that often. None of them are really like my go-to weapons in the game. So for me, like, these new camos that come out, I don't really get much use out of them because I don't use any of those guns. So it's just kind of like a, I don't know, it's like a useless addition. It's weird. It's really weird. That one makes no sense to me. But yeah, I would like to see, just summing it up here, I would like to see an increase to the amount of rewards that you get per week. I think that would be cool because when it comes up in Tides of War where there's a week where all you get is just a helmet or just a face paint, like that's kind of lame, you know? I don't want to grind out these freaking grindy challenges. Like some of the challenges can be pretty grindy. Not all of them. Tides of War is usually not too bad at taking a lot of time, but some of them can be pretty tough. And it's like I don't want to go through the grind of these daily challenges that have these like weird things that I have to do in game and change up my playstyle just to get a freaking face paint, you know? And I think a lot of the player base agrees with that. Now, if it was a week where it was like, oh, this week you do it, you're gonna get a new gun, a face paint, and like a camo for a pre-existing gun or something like that. I think I wouldn't be as mad at that because it's like, oh, I get the face paint, yeah, but I'm also getting this gun, I'm also getting this camo as well. Like it's not as bad. It's like, oh, it's a little more rewarding for that grind. Whereas if you just have the face paint, those same challenges, but just the face paint is the reward, it's like a face paint, man, a face paint. Like, I don't know. It doesn't seem sufficient enough for like a 1 week challenge. So I would like to see them sort of overhaul the weekly challenges, and I think that could make the game a lot more fun. Make me come back to it a little bit more. So I didn't even really get to talk about the new maps and stuff, but I guess like they're not out yet. And I mean, one new map's already been delayed, so we have to kind of see what happens there. So that's fine. So hope you guys enjoyed this little Biff discussion and that crazy gameplay. See you guys next time. That was dumb. Yeah. Oh, Justin, it conked my scoreboard. It said I had 1 death. Come on. Alright, we saw it. We have proof.